used to think the smartest thing in our apartment was the thermostat. It learned us, my habit of turning the heat down at night, her habit of turning it up when feelings ran cold. Two rhythms. The Nest negotiated like a diplomat. I didn't realize the smartest thing in our apartment was the person who knew how to make a lie sound exactly like me. I'm Julian, 32, product designer in Seattle. I draw rectangles for a living and sell them to people who call them features. My girlfriend Lena is a brand strategist who can convince a towel to be a lifestyle. We met at a rooftop show on Capitol Hill where everyone pretended to like a band that sounded like an air purifier. She spilled gin on my shoe and persuaded me it was lucky. She's that kind of woman calamity with a smile. We were the easy kind of in love at first. Shared playlists, shared jokes, shared custody of a plant neither of us could keep alive. Her apartment was an Airbnb with permanent residence, white, sterile, expensive. Mine was the opposite, secondhand couch with the springs of a moral lesson, books in stacks because shelves felt like commitment. We merged lives like an app update, bug fixes and performance improvements. When I tell this story now, I can see foreshadowing everywhere like crumbs left by a lazy screenwriter. The night she asked to connect her work calendar to the home app so the lights do a thing when I'm on calls. The way she teased me for putting motion sensors in the hallway. The way she said, "Your voice is my favorite thing," and asked me to leave voicemails when I flew for work so she could fall asleep to them. At the time, it felt like intimacy. It was homework. Lena hated my office. Not my job, my office. Open plan is a war crime, she'd say, taking bites of my breakfast. When the company went hybrid, she cheered like a kid. We'll be feral, she promised. Pajama meetings, midday walks, lunch like we're rich. If you've never lived with a person whose charm bends time, understand, there are months where lunch like we're rich is a spell strong enough to cover every crack. The first crack made a cute sound. My manager pinged. "You sounded off in stand-up, everything good?" I was in stand-up, except I wasn't. Not the way I thought. I'd taken a sick morning headache, classic. At 9,004 a.m., our team call had a voice labeled Julian, giving a tidy update about the card sorting study and heads up, I'll be offline this afternoon for an appointment. The cadence, the pauses, even the way I drag when I'm about to disagree, it was me. I didn't say those sentences. I checked Slack history, checked calendar, checked the recording. It was me. If you've ever heard your voice say a thing you didn't say, your stomach learns a new verb. "Babe," I said that night, stirring pasta like it owed me rent, did I? Sleepwalk into a meeting? She laughed from the couch without looking up from her phone. "You? Sleepwalk? You barely sleep. Maybe you're developing time travel." "I mean it," I said, smiling because I didn't know how to be serious about a thing I couldn't name yet. I was offline, but my voice gave an update. "The universe loves efficiency," she said. "Maybe you recorded it ages ago and forgot. Then, are we doing Parmesan or are we doing adult?" We did Parmesan. The knot in my stomach took notes. 2 days later, our landlord emailed asking to schedule a unit filter replacement. I clicked the building portal to offer times and saw a request I hadn't made. Tenant will be unavailable 4:07 p.m. for medical appointment. The language was what I use when I'm trying to sound grown. The timestamp was 7,014 a.m. I was asleep at 7,004 a.m. because I am not a saint. The week after that, my bank called to verify a voice authorization. I didn't pick up. They left a message. "This is to confirm your enrollment in Voice ID. If this wasn't you, call immediately." I did. The rep sounded like a man who gets paid to be polite to people who are having heart attacks. "We received a call yesterday," he said. "Caller verified with PIN and passphrase. We enrolled your voice print. I can disable if you'd like." "How did you verify?" I asked slowly, because sometimes your tone is the only thing keeping the room from noticing the fire. "Date of birth, last four of social, mother's maiden name," he said. "Old school." "Then we ask you to repeat a standard phrase twice." The caller sounded, he hesitated. "Maybe trained not to describe accents or genders. Consistent." "Please delete the profile," I said, and put a note that no voice enrollments should be accepted without in-branch ID. "Noted," he said, and I heard his keyboard making a fence. When I hung up, Lena was at the kitchen table with her laptop open to a deck titled, "Trust is a Brand." She was wearing my t-shirt and the look of someone so deep in concentration she forgets where she is. There is a particular tenderness you feel watching someone be good at something. It is also a disadvantage. You forget to count knives. I took a breath like an actor. "Hey, did you sign me up for Voice ID ever? Like when we organized all the accounts on the new app?" My bank called saying someone did. She blinked like the thought had to swim from a far part of her brain. No, I hate banks.
Not
Did you do a thing
again.
drunk? She grinned. Babe, promise me if you start amnesia, recording meetings and enrolling in voice banking, you'll do something sexy too, like sleep, build us a deck. It's cute how you can make anything into a joke until it becomes an affidavit. I didn't tell her I called the carrier next. The rep was a woman with the kind of authority in her voice that makes you sit up straighter. Any SIM swaps on my line in the last month? I asked. Any call forwarding? She paused. We show a call forwarding
Where's
rule
that
briefly set
horse
on
got
Tuesday from
to?
8002 to 9031 AM to an external number ending in 0419. It was disabled at 9031. Tuesday at 8002 is when stand-up happens. My jaw did a small math. Can you tell me the full number? I can't, she said softly, but I can put a permanent block on forwarding unless you approve at the store with ID. Please, I said. That night, I lay next to Lena and timed her breaths.
Come
She had
on.
the deep, honest sleep of people who are going to do something the next day and need to be rested for the lie. I stared at the ceiling and did what I do when I can feel the future running at me. I made a boring plan. I started with the house. The smart things that loved us also loved logs. I dumped data from the router, DHCP leases, MAC addresses, timestamps of when devices joined the network. I pulled the Nest logs when the mic had listened for "Hey Google" when the away mode
That
toggled.
horse
I
don't
exported our
listen.
HomeKit events. I asked our smart lock politely for its visitor history. I logged into the workspace admin portal and requested access to the last 30 days of meeting attendance metadata for users in our org named like me. It's amazing how much a life tells on itself when you ask it nicely. The day of the stand-up I attended, our router showed a new device connecting at 8003 AM, a laptop named Lenovo. Not Lenovo,
For
Lenovo,
Christ's sake.
cute. It had a spoofed Mac that started with Apple's prefix. The Nest heard, "Hey Google," at 8004. Our lock showed Lena leaving at 10,011 AM, returning at 12:49 PM. The workspace metadata showed the Julian voice joined at 9002 from an external IP in Ballard, not from our office or my home. The bank call had originated, the rep told me, after verifying my identity, from a number that belonged to a VoIP
Never
service.
comes when I need
The
it.
phrase the caller had repeated twice to enroll my voiceprint was, "My voice is my password." When you lay the events out end to end, it looks like choreography. It also looks like love, if the lover is a ghost wearing your face. I should have confronted her then. I know that. The advice column in my head shouted it. But I come from a family of women who handle liars like accountants handle decimals. They taught me, you don't
Not
show your work until the
again.
grade is final. The next hint arrived with lipstick on it. Lena's brand week was in Portland. She was packing shoes that looked like negotiation, comfortable enough to run in, pretty enough to make it look like you don't. I kissed her, stole a sock, made a joke about not falling in love with an artisanal candle. The first night she sent a photo of a hotel room, too nice for her per diem, a glass of red wine, and a line like a caption on a magazine, "Earning my sleep." Our hallway camera noticed someone in our apartment at
Damn
9:13
that
p.m.
horse.
He had a key. He had a cap. He set down a bag I recognized from our closet. He moved like a person who has been here before. He went straight to the bedroom and then, 3 minutes later, to my desk, woke my computer, and put on headphones. He stared at the screen, head bobbing slightly, the way people bob when they're scrubbing through audio. He plugged in a mic I recognized, the expensive podcasting one I'd bought because a YouTube told me I needed it. He put headphones on and said softly into my room,
Every
"My voice is my
time.
password." And then, like he was practicing scales, "Hey, this is Julian. I just wanted to check in about the update on the..." He paused, listened. He opened a folder named Room Tone. There is a very specific kind of nausea that only men feel when they watch another man move through their room like a checklist. It tastes like metal. It doesn't go away. I saved the clip. I saved 5 clips. I searched the hallway footage for other nights and found 3 different
Damn
shirts, same hat,
horse.
always quiet, always working. The man looked like the brand of transparency Lena admired in other people: clean jaw, honest eyes, the kind of hands that men learn to have if they want to be described as gentle at parties. I didn't know him. I knew his posture, the posture of men who always get away with it. I texted Lena at 9030 p.m. "How's Bran Week?" She sent back a photo of a cheese plate and a joke about Oregon being extra about cows. I
Come
typed
on.
and deleted 8 questions and settled on one: "What's your hotel's Wi-Fi called?" She replied, Pembroke guest. I checked the login logs for our Wi-Fi. Lenovo had connected at 9:12 p.m. as if the guest in my hallway had gotten impatient with our sometimes stingy router. After the man left, Lenovo left. You know that cliche about the frog and the boiling water. It's wrong. It's not that you don't notice the heat. It's that when you finally notice it, the first thing you think about
That
is how to save the
horse
pot.
don't listen.
I called a friend who works in a place with 3-letter initials I'm not allowed to put on LinkedIn. I didn't ask him to do anything illegal. I asked him what kind of tools are used to make a voice that sounds like a person. He said the names like he was reading a cookbook, open source models, consumer apps that make marketing videos for people who can't afford voice actors, shady discords. If someone has 15 minutes of you talking, he said, they can make you read bedtime stories. If they have a good ear and a rented GPU, they can make you ask your bank to move money. Would you know if it was you? I asked. If you're listening on a phone in a busy room, he said, and you expect it to be you, you'll believe it's you. Confirmation bias is the cheap glue of the internet. How do I prove a voice is not a voice? I asked. You don't, he said, kind. You prove a life around it. Logs, cameras, places the voice could not be. Act like a boring detective. Make a map. I made a map. I plotted out every time I had spoken when I couldn't have been speaking. I laid it over Lena's calendar. A pattern emerged. The Julian who showed up in my life did so when she needed to be somewhere else. The bank call, the work update, a call to our building manager to approve a guest key for the dog walker. We don't have a dog. The night she claimed to be at a client dinner in Belltown, I called my dad and left a voicemail about, remember that story about the canoe, which is a story about the canoe, which is a story no one could tell but me. The voicemail sounds like me remembering something. It is also a person trying to become my muscles. I made an appointment with a digital forensics firm in Fremont that helps companies when their employees leak products to tech blogs and then pretend their Slack was hacked. The consultant, a woman named Jocelyn with a haircut that looked fast, listened while I explained in nouns. She didn't flinch. Do you have consent from the other adult in the residence to monitor any of these devices? She asked. My name is on the accounts, I said. We share the home system. The hallway camera is ours. She nodded. We can take an image of your home hub, your router, your laptop. We can mirror the camera SDs. We can log when devices came on and what they did. We cannot hack the cloud. We can look at what you own and tell you where the heat was. She did. The report was a palm-sized stack of paper that looked like a court would like it. It showed the same story my stomach already knew. It also gave me a new word, synthesis. The Lenovo device had a folder tree that matched an open-source voice model repository. It had cached files with file names like julesaverage.wave and roomtonekitchennight.af. It had a session file with my initials. It had, in a folder called Demos, 30 seconds of me saying things I had never said to a woman I've never met. It's okay. I'm not mad. You're safe. They were good. They were me. I wanted to be proud and throw up. Jocelyn tapped the report. Whoever this is not amazing, she said, practical. If we had time and money, we could get them to slip. They don't co-articulate like you. They flatten S's ever so slightly. But that's not what you need. I need to know what I need, I said, a little hysterical. You need a timeline, she said. You need a face. You need not to get arrested while you're getting both. You need a lawyer who likes adjectives for judges. I got a lawyer. His name is Owen, and he has the face of a man who will not pretend a thing is okay so you like him. He told me 3 things in the first 5 minutes. Don't talk to the other party about your evidence. Don't destroy anything. Don't try to trick anyone into confessing on video like you're making content. I'm not hoping for likes, I said. Your anger is, he said, and he wasn't wrong. What's the crime? I asked, because you can't call a man a thief if the state doesn't agree. He listed them gently: criminal impersonation, fraud if the bank call had succeeded, unlawful eavesdropping if they recorded me in any private setting, perhaps computer trespass if they touched my devices without consent. And then the serious one: if she tries to use a fake audio to make an accusation against you and involves law enforcement, that's filing a false report. The damage from that doesn't unring quickly. I hadn't let my brain move there yet. He moved it there for me like a professional barber moves ahead to get the angle right. Has she ever made a threat to do that? He asked. Lena talks in aesthetics, I said. When she's angry, she uses metaphors. Last week she said, some men only learn when the world tells them they're dangerous. I thought it was a line. She writes lines. It's her job. Lines become scripts in some people's hands, he said. Make sure the cameras are recording. Make sure you are never alone with her without your mic on. Do not be the man a future detective listens to with his pen uncapped. I nodded. The same afternoon, Lena texted, "Let's do date night. I miss us." 2 heart emojis. A photo of oysters she'd screenshotted from a friend's story. I looked at the clip of the man in my hallway touching my mic and heard my own voice say, "I miss you." We went to a place in Ballard where the fish tastes like it remembers decisions. Lena wore a dress that makes waiters upgrade you. She was luminous. She leaned in and put her chin in her hand and gave me her double iris attention. One for me, one for the mirror. "You've been far," she said. "I want to go back to our beginning." Our beginning is a drink and a roof and a joke about luck. Our middle is a series of Tuesdays where somebody sets a timer so we remember to eat. Tonight, I didn't tell her I knew. I asked her about her day. She told me a story about a meeting that either happened or didn't, the way people tell stories when the accuracy is not the point, only the feeling. Her phone lit up with a notification and she flipped it face down casually, like casual was a sport. At home, she took the long shower she takes when she's polishing a mood. I sat on the couch and listened to the water and thought about how you can be lonely in rooms where you used to be stupid together. She came out in a t-shirt of mine and climbed into my lap and put her forehead to mine. "You're my favorite voice," she said. "Am I?" I asked, and the question hung between us like a thin wire. She pulled back. Her eyes flicked to the bookshelf where I keep my old cameras, the DSLR I used to pretend to be an artist. "Let's not do this," she said soft. "Let's not be the couple with evidence." "We can be the couple with boundaries," I said. Her mouth tightened. "You and your rectangles," she said. "Not everything has edges." "No," I said, "but most lies do." She went still. People tell you a lot with their still. Then she smiled a smile I didn't know, the one she uses for clients who are difficult but spending. "I think we need a reset," she said. "Drinks with my team Friday. You should come. I want you there." I accepted. I set an automation on my phone that night like a man planting a tripwire. If my number is used to call any police non-emergency line between now and Saturday, record. If the word domestic appears in any transcript, record. It's not paranoia if your life is being scored by software. Friday, I was the boyfriend on good behavior. I stood under light that makes everyone pretty and let her introduce me to people who use storyteller as a job title. I shook hands with men who have perfect stubble. One of them said, "We've heard your voice," in a way that wasn't meant to make my spine do anything and did anyway. On the way home, she was electric, too bright. In the elevator, she pressed against me like a promise. In the apartment, she turned suddenly into a statue. "We should talk," she said. "We're not okay." "I know," I said. She walked to the hall table and picked up my keys, then put them down. The gesture had the practiced shape of setting a stage. A part of me wanted to be charmed into letting her direct. The boring part won. "You can say whatever you want," I said. "I'm going to record so I don't misremember. That's for both of us." I held up my phone, thumb over the button, not sneaky. Then I set it on the coffee table with the screen bright and the timer up. She stared at it like it had betrayed her. "You think I'm going to lie," she said. "I think we both deserve proof of what our mouths do when we're scared," I said. "Start." She cried, the good cry, the tear that makes a man want to agree to anything just to make it stop. "You shut me out," she said. "You live in lists. You make me feel like a contractor for my own heart." She is so good at naming feelings, it can almost climb down your throat and replace your original. "I've been getting help," she said. "I'm not ashamed of that." "What kind of help?" I asked. "Voice coaching," she said. "Embodiment. Learning to speak so I'm not small when your logic gets big. You should try it. It would be so good for you." A laugh surprised me, low in my chest. "Did the coach teach you how to call my bank?" I asked. "Did he teach you how to forward my calls when you need to be someone else at 9 a.m.? She flinched like a person who touched a doorknob the world told them was off. "What are you talking about?" "Lenova," I said. "Ballard, room tone. The man with the cap who comes in when you say you're at a client dinner. The folder called Demos." I did not raise my voice because the winning move in the game she likes is not to provide her with volume to fight. She stared at my face and did a calculation. I watched it. "You don't love someone for 2 years and not know when they are adding." Her shoulders dropped. She shifted into a different gear. "Okay," she said. "You want nouns? The man is a sound engineer. He helps me with my podcast." "You don't have a podcast," I said. "Everyone has a podcast," she said. "We're batching episodes." What's it called? I asked. Her mouth opened and did not produce a noun. She was good. She was not that good. He helped me make a playlist for your sleep, she said, pivoting hard. Because you can't sleep. Because you hold the world in your jaw, and I wanted to give you back your own voice so it could be an ally instead of an enemy. But of course you'd make that a crime. Is it a crime? I asked. Did you use my voice to talk to my bank? She didn't answer. That wordless 5 seconds was the only honest thing she gave me all month. The automation on my phone pinged then, ironically, reminding me to water the plant we were killing. I laughed again, too loud, which made her eyes spark in exactly the way I'm ashamed of knowing. You're cruel, she said. One day a woman will tell the truth about you, and you will finally hear it. That's the second time you've said something like that, I said. This week, the world tells men they're dangerous. A woman will tell the truth about you. Is that a line from your deck, or is it a plan? She went very still. She pulled her mouth into the shape she uses when writing copy she knows the client will buy. If something happened here, she said slowly, and I said I felt unsafe, there are people who would take that seriously. Make sure it's true when you say it, I said, because if it's not, this building has cameras, our phones have microphones, and the law has definitions. She stared at me, wide-eyed, like maybe she was seeing for the first time. The part of me my coworkers see, the one who calls a bluff not because he wants to win, but because he hates games. She grabbed her coat. I'm going out, she said. Don't text me. It's not safe when you're like this. When the door closed, my phone didn't ping. It beeped with the soft, bureaucratic sound of my automation starting, recording triggered keywords detected. The line she said into her phone down the hall for the benefit of whomever would listen later was, I'm scared to go home. He's not like himself. He's threatening. I don't feel safe. My thumbnail dug a crescent in my palm. Boring plan, I thought. Boring plan. Don't chase, don't call, don't give a performance to an audience that may include a badge. I set up a new camera that pointed from the kitchen into the living room, not hidden, sitting there like a small, benevolent witness. I turned on the Roomba because I am petty and wanted it to be the only thing prowling. I emailed Owen with the subject line, might need your Saturday. I emailed Jocelyn, if this becomes a police thing, will you talk to a detective with me? Then I sat on the floor and petted the couch because there is a reason people stroke animals when planes hit turbulence. Your hands need to convince your brain the world still contains soft. At 12:41 a.m., my phone flashed with a city number, not 911, non-emergency. I let it go. Then I let the recording play. Caller identifies as Lena, says she is locked out because he's angry, says I'm big and pacing, says words like history, and I just need an officer to help me get a bag. The dispatcher asked if there were weapons. She said, he has, kitchen knives. The dispatcher said, that's not what we mean. She gave our address. The recording ended with the dispatcher saying a car would swing by if available. I stood. I checked the peephole. The hallway was a long, quiet throat. I put the kettle on like a lunatic because adults make tea. You'd be amazed how deeply you can want a detective to see you making tea. When the knock came at 1012 a.m., I opened the door softly. 2 officers stood there with the posture of men trying to be gentle in the wrong shoes. Evening, the older one said. We got a call. Everything okay here? It is, I said. You're welcome to step in. I'm recording. That's the camera. I'm the only person here. I walked them through the apartment like I was showing them a rental. Here's the kitchen. Here's the couch. Here are the knives in their drawer. Here's the bedroom, empty. Here's the balcony with the view, she says, makes the rent morally neutral. They did a lap and you could see their shoulders drop a centimeter. Mind if we sit? The younger one asked, glancing at my tea like maybe it was contagious. We sat. I handed them the recording of the call. I showed them metadata. The call had originated from her phone. I showed them the text thread where 20 minutes earlier she'd said, you're not safe when you're like this. People say things they don't mean, the older one said. Neutral. We just want everyone to go to bed alive. So do I said. I also want it in your notes that you were here and found a man making tea. They nodded. They took my name. They told me not to open the door. She came back amped. They told me to call if anything shifted. They left. The apartment exhaled. When I tell you I didn't sleep, trust me. I listened to my building breathe. I listened to the street. I listened for a key that didn't come. At 7, I showered. At 8, I texted Owen, today? He replied, noon, bring your folder. I walked into his office with my life stacked like schoolwork. He spread it out with the reverence of a man who chooses his holy. We file for a protective order, he said, temporary. based on the false report attempt. We do not accuse in adjectives. We show the call log and your video and the officers' names and the recording. We get a judge to draw a circle around you." "What about the other man?" I asked. "The voice, the bank, the not smart thermostat." "We get to him in Act 2, Owen said. "First, we make sure your house is not a stage for someone else's performance." He filed. The judge gave me a date for a hearing and a piece of paper that felt like both overkill and inadequate. I carried it home like a myth. At 10, Lena texted, "I need to pick up my things. Please leave them by the door." I put 2 bags by the door clothes, toiletries, the sweater that smells like the first week we met. I set a phone on the hall table recording the doorway for the very responsible reason that I didn't want anyone later to say I closed my fist. I made tea again because rituals matter even when you're being left. When the key turned, I stepped back into the kitchen and watched in the reflection of the oven door as a man I recognized from my hallway camera stepped in behind her to help. He had the cap, he had the careful movements, and she had the look of someone who believes she is about to win the part of her own life back. "Hey," he said, like we were neighbors. "We'll be quiet. In and out." "It's Lena's apartment too," he added. "Wrong sentence to the wrong man in the wrong room." I didn't answer. I let the camera sit there in the open like a small conscience. I let my silence make the room the shape it needed to be. Lena zipped the bag and stared at me, eyes shining with rage and something less photogenic. "You don't own me," she said. "No," I said. "I own my name." She laughed the sharp, thin laugh people make when they've painted themselves into a corner and are absolutely going to walk across the floor anyway. "Everyone's going to know who you are," she said. "I'm going to tell the truth about you." "Make sure it is," I said. The man touched her elbow and steered her out. The door shut. The hallway camera caught them half hugging in the hall like 2 actors side hugging after curtain. I locked the deadbolt with a hand that didn't shake. Then I sat on the floor and wrote out what needed to happen before the hearing, pull the building's log of their visit, get the patrol report from last night via records request, get Jocelyn to prepare an affidavit on the synthetic voice, pull the bank's letter about the attempted voice enrollment, print the carrier's note about call forwarding, breathe. The doorbell rang at noon. Owen's paralegal handed me a copy of the petition, a hearing date, and a blessing I believed in more than religion. "We have enough." I nodded and tried not to cry at a stranger. When I closed the door, my phone buzzed with a new, unknown number. A voice like someone who has always been believed said, "This is Detective Amos with SPD. I have a report here from last night. You free to talk?" "Yes," I said. "I have tea." Detective Amos had the voice of a man who's learned how to make rooms feel less dramatic without lying about the facts. He took the chair at my kitchen table like he planned to be there as long as the evidence required and not a minute more. I poured tea because I wanted him to know I could do ordinary things even when my life felt like a lawsuit with a pulse. He let me talk in nouns. I walked him through the router logs, the hallway camera, the Nest events, the HomeKit history, the carrier's note about call forwarding, the bank's message about a voice print enrollment I hadn't requested, and the forensics report Jocelyn had prepared with her quick haircut and her quicker way of putting shame into folders. When I reached the hallway clip of Cap Guy sitting at my desk and practicing, "My voice is my password," Amos leaned in until the screen glowed in his eyes. "That's your microphone," he said. "That's my microphone," I said. He wrote the kind of notes you only see in movies, when the detective is still honest full sentences, no doodles. "I'm going to ask you a boring question," he said finally. "Do you want to press charges?" I wanted to say I wanted to unwind time and go back to the version where the worst thing Lena could do to me was talk too loud on calls. I wanted to say I wanted a hug from someone who knew me before my voice could be downloaded. What I said was, "Yes, but I need you to know I'm not trying to wreck her life. I'm trying to stop mine from being a toy." "That's the right size," he said. "Here's how this goes. We'll open an impersonation and fraud case. We'll get a warrant for your hallway video, router, and the home hub. We'll request data from your carrier and your bank. If a judge smiles at me, which he will, we'll serve a warrant on the person we think is the engineer. If he's got a conscience, he'll fold. If he doesn't, his laptop will." He asked for names. I gave him Lena's. The other man's I didn't have yet. I told him the device name, Lenovo, the cap, the Knights. He asked if there had been any threats, any mentions of calling the cops to choreograph fear. I played him the non-emergency call recording my automation had caught. He nodded like a teacher who's grading a test where the student had studied the wrong chapter. "This saved you," he said, tapping the waveform. You'd be amazed how many men I meet who are fine and doomed because they didn't write anything down. You wrote it down. Keep doing that. The temporary protection order hearing came fast because danger moves calendars for you. I stood in a courtroom that smelled like paper and old benches and tried not to narrate the scene in my head like a podcast. The judge was a woman whose hair had been practical for a long time. Owen did the talking because that's what I was paying him for. He did not use the word deepfake. He said synthetic voice. He did not say betrayal. He said impersonation. He did not say she tried to ruin me. He said she initiated a police call that misrepresented facts. And here is a recording of what she said, and here is an officer's report documenting what they found when they arrived, a man making tea in a quiet apartment. Lena showed up in a sweater that made her look like a brochure for sincerity. Her new lawyer argued that I was weaponizing technology to monitor and control a creative woman, and if you think there isn't a part of me that would have laughed at that sentence 6 months ago, you don't know how loud rage can make the world. Owen didn't take the bait. He held up the log from the carrier, the bank's letter, a still from the hallway camera with Cap Guy's hand on my mic, and the patrol officers' names. He didn't talk about the relationship. He talked about the rules. The judge granted the order. 1 year, no contact, no coming to the building except to retrieve property at a time coordinated through counsel, no third-party contact, no wellness calls. She looked at Lena with something like pity and said, "This does not mean he is right about everything. It means I want both of you alive and neither of you in handcuffs because one of you decided a performance was proof." Walking out of a courthouse with a piece of paper that tells the world not to touch you doesn't feel like winning. It feels like a ceiling you didn't know existed, lowering gently onto your life. I took the bus home because I didn't trust my hands to be in charge of a steering wheel, and because buses are how you remember. You live among other people who also have paperwork. 2 days later, Amos called. "We served 2 warrants this morning," he said, like he was talking about weather. "One here, one across the lake. The Seattle one was your pal with the cap. His name is Nolan. He works in a studio that does voiceover cleanup. He said the magic words, 'It's not what it looks like.' Then his MacBook said the rest." "What about Lena?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded to me. "She's not under arrest," he said. "We're interviewing her with her counsel present. She's telling us the version where she didn't understand what Nolan was doing, where it was for a podcast, where she only used your voice to keep your job safe because you were overwhelmed. The problem with that version is the bank call and the call forwarding. We'll see where the prosecutor lands." Nolan folded exactly the way decent cowards do. He tried to be noble and dump everything on himself to spare the woman who gave him stories. The problem for Nolan was metadata. The folder tree Jocelyn had diagrammed matched directories on his machine. The file names were the same. The cached cache had the same goofy typos. His Venmo showed him paying the VoIP service that had touched my bank. His calendar showed entries labeled L room tone. The warrant hit his Discord. The admin messages read, "Got a fun one, need to robot some sibilants on a Pacific Northwest mail," and "GF needs a quick updates read." Amos read those to me and I felt dizzy, not from shock was over, but from how now you can make a crime sound if you put a smirk on it. "Here's the thing," Amos said. "We don't need to make a DA speech about the future of truth. We just need the 30 seconds where he used your voice to try to move money and the 90 seconds where she used a phone to pretend she was afraid in a room she wasn't in. The rest is sociology." My job did not implode because I didn't let it. HR did call me in. They'd received an anonymous email with an audio attachment purporting to be me admitting to fudging timelines and burying a test to please an exec, which, if you know me, is the funniest thing anyone has ever said about my career. The email's body suggested they listen and decide whether an investigation was warranted. The file sounded like me if someone gave my voice to an intern with a grudge. It even had my favorite verbal tick, that low M-eam right before I disagree. I asked security to come into the conference room. I plugged in my laptop and put the fake confession on the left of the screen and a real clip from last week's town hall on the right. I slowed them to half speed. On the fake one, my S flattened when met S. On the real one, it curled the way my mouth does. I overlaid our network logs with the timestamp of the Dropbox link in the email. The request hit our server farm from a coffee shop's guest network 3 blocks from Lena's new sublet. I didn't say her name. I let the map say the noun. Security hugged their policy binder to their chest like a baby. "We're closing this," the head said. "We'll document the attempt. And then we're going to use this in our next all hands because if the world is going to be stupid, we might as well teach it. It should have felt like vindication. It felt like a man changing a tire in the rain and telling himself he's proud of how strong he is. The prosecutor charged Nolan with criminal impersonation and attempted theft, plus a computer offense for slithering into my stuff without consent. He pled out in 2 hearings because his lawyer took one look at the folder named Jules.wave and decided her energy was better spent on minimizing community service hours than inventing a defense that would make a jury like him. He paid restitution to my bank for the hours they had to bill to unpoison my profile. He had to take a class with a name that sounds like kindergarten for people with laptops. Digital Ethics 101, and I hope it was humiliating. Lena's file looked different. The state charged her with false reporting and a lesser count tied to the call forwarding. No one threw cuffs on her. She got arraigned, cried, and left with a promise to behave. Her lawyer floated the word diversion like it was a life raft. I didn't give a victim impact statement where I used adjectives. I sent the court a 2-page letter with dates, recordings, and the sentence I kept repeating to myself at 3 in the morning. I do not want her punished. I want me unused. Our bullying Timia. The case resolved the way cases do when a DA does not want to turn a new technological genre into a referendum on the defendant's soul. Deferred findings. Classes. A fine that would make a consultant wince. A requirement that she send a letter to the bank retracting any authorization she had initiated or encouraged and acknowledging that voice is not identity. Community service at a place that teaches teenagers how to read the internet without losing their minds. If you were hoping for orange jumpsuits, I can't give you that. If you are hoping for a world where a judge says on the record that your name is not a sound anyone can steal, I can give you that. He did. The story could end there. The law did its slow thing. The apartment got quiet. The plant finally gave up. My friends stopped looking at me like I might need to be reminded to eat. But there was a last twist I didn't see coming because I had undercounted the people who loved me. My dad called from the backyard where a family's fire pit pretends to be a church. Your Aunt Sylvia wants to talk, he said, apologetic, like a man introducing someone who has opinions and a megaphone. Sylvia is the kind of aunt who sends articles about blue light and tells you your posture is a political statement. She got on the phone and didn't do the aunt voice. She did the voice she saved for her children when they were kids and lied badly. I'm the one who saved the canoe voicemail, she said. I sat down on my kitchen floor because the world was learning to be a sitcom again. The what? The canoe story, she said. I thought it was sweet that you called your dad to ask him about it. I was there when he played it, and I set it aside because your mother was talking and then the dog barked and I forgot. But I listened later because I like your voice when you call home, and I heard it. It was almost you. But you never say canoe like that. You hit the ooh a little longer because of your 2nd grade teacher. I called your dad. He said he slept through your call. I asked him to play it again. We both heard it. I asked him to play it again. We both heard it. I told him to call you. He said he didn't want to embarrass you if you had, taken something. So I called you now that the rest of the family knows you're not an idiot. I put my head on the cabinet and laughed so hard I had to relearn how to breathe. You don't know how much your body needed to hear that a person who loves you noticed the vowel. I sent that voicemail to Amos. He added it to the file with a smile in his text you could hear. Then he called me to tell me the thing I didn't know I needed. You have a very specific way of saying canoe, he said. If this ever comes back, remember the ooh. Work turned my pain into a brown bag training, because that's what companies do when they want to be good. I built a deck that didn't pretend we could outsmart everything. I wrote 3 rules on a slide titled, Not Paranoid, Just Adult, Never Accept a voice print on a phone call without a visual fallback. Log who can forward your calls. And if a voice says a thing about you that breaks your life, pause and ask which life it came from. People laughed at the 3rd one, the way tired people laugh at church. Then they put the policies in a Confluence page, and I went home and ate cereal for dinner and felt like a person who had finally earned a quiet grocery store. Lena reached out once more, through Owen, because my order says it has to be like that. Her message had exactly 2 sentences that weren't written as propaganda. I thought he was helping me be brave, she wrote. I hated how much you needed paper. I stood at my sink and said out loud to my empty kitchen, paper is how we leave each other kindly, and then I put her email in the folder, because receipts can be love letters if you let them. Months layered into a year. The apartment learned my footsteps again. I got a new plant, and then another, and then a 3rd, because apparently I had decided to be a person with windowsills and responsibilities. I went on dates that were refreshingly dumb. I met someone in line at a hardware store. Nadia, a structural engineer who has opinions about fasteners and no Instagram. And on our third date, when the topic drifted toward exes the way topics do when restaurants run out of specials, I told her the short version. She didn't try to become my therapist. She didn't try to make a joke big enough to stand on. She said, "I'm sorry," and then she said, "I like your actual voice." And then she asked if I wanted to try a different brand of oatmeal because she had a feeling I'd been faithful to mine for too long. We keep a dumb ritual that probably saved me from becoming a man who narrates his life like an affidavit. Once a week, we turn all the smart things off and eat with the windows open and pretend we're the kind of people who can survive without timers. The first time we did it, I felt like I was cheating on the part of me that likes logs. The second time, I felt like I was letting my neurons learn to unclench. When people hear this story, they always ask me what I would do different. I used to say everything because that's what hurt demands you perform. Now I say I would listen sooner, not to suspicion, to nouns. I would turn on the lights that already existed in my life and ask them what they saw. I would ask the router in the hallway in the way I say canoe. I also get DMs from men who want a revenge coda. They want me to tell them I ruined Lena. I didn't. She's still in Seattle. She works at a smaller firm that lets her write lines with adjectives and pretend the world is a mood board. Nolan moved to a different city and is doing podcast edits for a church, which I'm choosing to believe is the universe's idea of a good bit. My name is not in any voice print database I don't own. My bank put a red banner on my profile that says in boring words what my bones know in bright ones: voice is not identity. If you're listening to this and the hair on your arms is up because part of your life sounds a little too much like mine, do the boring thing. Get paper. Don't make a trap. Make a map. Don't scream at a door. Show a detective a file. Don't post the clip. Show a judge a log. Save your adjectives for after you built a life big enough to stand still in, while other people decide how much their shame needs you. Tell me what you'd have done. Would you have confronted them the first time your bank said voice ID? Or would you have done what I did and built a case until even the part of you that still loved her had to admit the vowels didn't fit? Would you have blasted the hallway clip on social or kept it for the person with a badge and a pen? Drop your take in the comments. If this story kept you listening, hit like so. It finds the next person hearing their own voice say a sentence they don't remember living. Subscribe for more long, messy, true-feeling stories where the twist isn't a masked villain. It's a call forwarding rule, a hallway camera, and a man who learned that the kindest sound in the world is his own voice, told the truth by paper.